What is up, Broketographers? Brian here again for the Broketographers, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things I like and don't like about my new Fuji X100F. So if you saw the vlog about a month ago, you'll know that I got rid of my X Pro 2 and ended up just simplifying and going with the X100F. Now I had an X100S and an XT1 before the X Pro 2, and most of it was really just experimenting with the Fuji SLR style cameras. I didn't like the XT1 very much. I like the OVF of the X100S and the X Pro 2. I feel a little more connected to the scene, I guess, because of the OVF, and I like the really retro kind of rangefinder style. So after the XT1, I went back to a rangefinder style camera with the X Pro 2. Now, by the time I got the X Pro 2, I already had the XF23-14 and the XF35F2. Once I got the X Pro 2, I also got the Samyang 8mm fisheye, and I got the 56-1.2 as well as the 90F2. Now, I thought I'd be using them a lot more because I originally got the XT1 because I wanted a little more creative freedom with being able to change lenses and stuff from the X100S that I had before. But once I got the X Pro 2, I had it for about a year, and I shot literally about 80% plus of my photos in 2016 with the XF23 1.4. So after a little while, I realized that I really didn't need more than the 23, and having something as small as the X100F would allow me to really just take it with me and not really have to worry about very much, not having to carry any other lenses or any other accessories. I really could just take this, and if I take off the hood, it's a nice, actually pocketable package. If I even take off the adapter ring, it becomes even smaller, and I can throw the lens cap on this thing, and really this could fit in a jacket pocket. Now let's talk about some of the things I like about the X100F. One of the best things about the X100F is that it now uses the NPW126S battery, which is shared across almost the entire X series line, if not the entire X series line. So if you already own an X Pro 2 or an XT2 or an XT10 or XT20, you'll be able to use the same batteries in the X100F. The X100F shares the same DNA as the X Pro 2 and the XT2, which are the current flagship X series cameras. So I feel right at home with this camera. Physically, because it feels exactly like the X100S I owned a couple years ago, and also from a control standpoint, it integrates some of the things like the integrated ISO and shutter dial from the X Pro 2. From a performance standpoint, it's just about the same as the X Pro 2 that I had before, and it's head and shoulders above the previous X100 models. It's got the same autofocus system as the XT2 and the X Pro 2, so the speed of operation as well as the quality of the resulting images is about exactly what I would have gotten out of the X Pro 2 in a much smaller package. It's smaller, it's lighter, and it's a lot more pocketable than the X Pro 2. Now, the X Pro 2 wasn't big to begin with, but with the 23 on, it's not exactly pocketable. I'd still have to carry it in a messenger bag or a small camera bag that I would have to take with me. This thing, if I take off the adapter ring and just throw the lens cap on it, I can put this in a jacket pocket and be just fine. The most exciting thing for me is the ND filter and the leaf shutter. Having both of these easily allows me to overpower the sun with strobes or even just a small speed light. And this means my strobes are much more powerful when competing with the sun without having to resort to any trickery like high-speed sync or hypersync. With an ND filter and sync speeds this fast, even a small speed light is enough to overpower the sun. Now, the ND filter is something that's been around on the X100 series since the original X100 in 2011. It's a physical ND filter, and I found a lot of uses for it. I like that it works with my Instax Share SP2 printer. Being able to print photos straight from the camera on the fly is actually a really cool conversation starter and really just something cool to have with you on vacation, especially because you can print from your phone or straight from the camera. Some of the things I don't like about the X100F. My biggest gripe is the grip. It doesn't feel very secure in the hand. The finger groove isn't very deep. It doesn't really have a place where you could rest your thumb, and just doesn't feel quite as secure in the hand. Now, I know there's some other third-party grips and grip plates and things like that, but it makes a small camera a little more bulky. So I can understand that there is a bit of a sacrifice that needs to be made when you use a camera like this, but I really wish they figured out something a little bit better. Another one is the lack of weather sealing. Now, from what I've heard and read, it really wasn't possible to weather seal the X100F because of the lens design. I don't know why they couldn't just weather seal the rest of the camera, but it would have been nice to be able to shoot with this in inclement weather and not have to worry about it too much. Now, I never really had to shoot in the rain, especially living in California with my X Pro 2, but if I ever travel, which this will probably mostly get used for is travel photos, I'd like to have the security in knowing that I can use this in some inclement weather. Another thing I wish the X100F had would be dual card slots. Now I know it wasn't possible because they either had to make the decision between the new battery or dual card slots, and I really like the new battery because you can get a couple more shots, but having dual card slots is helpful, mostly for me for redundancy. I never really shot RAWs on any of my Fuji cameras because the JPEGs are so good, and I would really only use them for publishing to web and the occasional print. But having dual card slots and having that redundancy would just allow me a little more security when using this camera. So now when I travel, I'll just need to carry an external hard drive and an SD card reader to make sure that my photos are safe. The lens. Now, the lens hasn't been updated since the original X100F in 2012. It still performs well despite the X100F having double the resolution of the original X100, but the extreme softness wide open at macro focusing distances is still there. You can either stop down or use it to your advantage to create a sort of dreamy effect when shooting macro photos. Some might argue that the fixed 23mm on the X100F is limiting. For me, it's not really because I shot most of my photos on my X Pro 2 with the 23 1.4 anyway. The X100F has a new digital teleconverter feature that's basically an in-camera crop simulating the 50mm and 70mm fields of view. It upreses the photos and it works in JPEG only. I don't really see the point, but I guess it could be useful in a pinch. If you use the WCL wide and TCL teleconversion lenses, you can get the entire 24 megapixels out of this sensor and get the 28mm and 50mm equivalent field of views with the full resolution of the X-Trans 3 sensor. And while the X100F does have Wi-Fi, I wish it had GPS built in too. Now I'm shooting this on a Canon 1DX Mark II, which has GPS built in, and it's something I didn't think I would use that much, but over the last year, I found it really useful for location scouting. And if this had GPS built in, now I know you can use the app, but the app is actually really finicky and it doesn't work that well. It often crashes, especially when transferring photos, so I can't really rely on it. If I had GPS built in, this would be an awesome camera to scout locations with. Right now I use my iPhone because it's really easy to geotag the photo and look it up on a map later, but being able to have higher quality and more accurate and more detailed photos by using this thing with GPS, if it was built in, would be a lot better. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Like it, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at The Broketographers, and check out the website at thebroketographers.com. We've got a lot of cool education and articles just about stuff that we didn't really find out there. So it's got a lot of unique information, things like flash duration of different flashes, color temperature, as well as some things about some of the more expensive modifiers that a lot of people are really wondering if they're worth it. So go check out the website, broketographers.com, and we will see you in the next one.